So marketing automation it's one of those topics that is accessible to people across the spectrum when it comes to like comfort with technology as well as sophistication of marketing strategies or just business in general. So in this particular video, I want to speak specifically to marketing automation for beginners. So if you have self-selected as a beginner, as somebody who is at square one or even square zero with regards to your relationship to marketing automation as a concept, then you are in the right place. It should feel appealing. That's probably why you're here, is you're looking for advice and ideas for the role it can play in your business. But I also know that it can feel intimidating. If you have been running your business without technology or without automation specifically, you probably have some processes that you're proud of, and you probably have customers that are happy with the service or the product that you've delivered without the use of automation. So the idea of layering automation into your existing processes can feel a little unsettling. It can feel a little uncomfortable because it's challenging the way that you have done things. And if that way has produced results, then it feels counterintuitive to go about changing it. But I know, as an entrepreneur and small business owner myself, I know that we have limitations that we run into. No matter how proud you are of your business, if you are only doing things manually, then without fail, you will run into some sort of barrier, some sort of boundary that prevents you from breaking through to the next level or limits the impact you can have or the scope of customers you can serve. And the answer to how do I eradicate that boundary or how do I move it further down the road, the answer is systems and automation specifically. So at a more granular level, where do I start? I would challenge you to look over the way you are spending your time or the way your team is spending their time. Make an actual physical list on a Google Sheet or even on a piece of paper of the things you do every day or every week, or the things that they do, the things that they are responsible for. And on that list, you will no doubt have things that are the best use of your time. But you will probably find that you're also doing things that maybe aren't the best use of your time. Either they aren't a use of your skills, your expertise, or it's just not something you enjoy doing. This does two things for you. Number one is it buys your time back. As a business owner or as an employee of a small business, your time is valuable, and the way that you invest that time should be a choice. I get that these things need to get done, but just because something needs to be done doesn't mean it needs to be done by a human. So if you can use automation to accomplish the same result without compromising the experience, then you get that time back and you can choose where to reinvest it in your business. The second thing that this does is by using automation, by layering systems into this process, it creates consistency. And consistency produces a positive overall experience for your customers, but repeatably. If a human has to deliver, you might be really good at your job, but if you have an off day or if somebody, drops the ball, then you risk creating an unhappy customer or under-delivering on an expectation that was set. But if you can use automation, you standardize that process, and it gives you the opportunity to design what you would do if you had all the time in the world to focus on one customer. You can deliver that white glove experience for them and then use automation to make sure that it happens on repeat over and over. Let's get even more specific, because I know we're still talking about at a high level how to get started with thinking about marketing automation. So let's examine your customer journey and look for individual milestones, individual interactions where automation could be a fit. A common one is if somebody fills out a form on your website, if somebody fills out your contact us form and says, hey, I would love some details about what you do. So at the very least, you should have a response go to that person registering that their request was received. You might still respond to their email manually. You might still have to read it and make a decision as to what goes, in your reply. But if it takes you a day to do that, you want to have something that bridges that gap to let the customer know their response was received and a human is going to look at it. And then here's what I would recommend. Take that email and add a list of your most commonly asked questions. If you regularly get people asking about your pricing or about your cancel policy or your location or the different versions of your software that you offer, right? If you have common questions that people ask, you can predict like what these entries or what these inquiries might be asking for, and proactively answer them in that initial automated response. This does two things. Number one, it gets the customer what they might be after more quickly, or it might even answer questions they didn't know they had. But number two is that when you get to this portion of your job that is manually responding to those, if you know the question they asked was already answered in the automated response, then you don't have anything else to do. You could follow up with them and say, hey, I think you already got the answer to this, but I want to make sure that there's no loose ends, right? But at that point, it's up to you. And you know automation has taken something off of your plate and delivered on it for the customer. And that is the definition of a win-win. They got a response quickly, and you have less to do in the long run. There are instances like that throughout your customer journey. And so I would examine it, through a magnifying glass or at a really, deep dive, granular level, and look for instances, micro moments where automation could make that process smoother, faster, or even more robust, right? And as you find those, layer automation in where appropriate. Remember that automation doesn't necessarily have to remove the human from the equation, but it should lighten the lift. It should reduce some of the responsibility that we feel, some of the overwhelm we feel when you're doing everything manually, and allow us to be a little more strategic where we are putting our manual effort. So that's what I wanted to say about beginning with marketing automation. Hopefully this gives you some context, some ideas for how you can move forward layering automation into your business. Take care.